Well, the Supreme Court has said that access to internet is really a fundamental part of freedom of expression. Joining us, Kannan Gopinathan, the IAS officer who's been attempting to quit the IAS for quite some while now. And Kashmir, of course, has played a huge role in your life. You quit because of what was going on there. How do you respond to what the Supreme Court has said about access to internet, about freedom of expression?
See, it was very clear that what we are doing in Kashmir after the post-abrogation of 370, for me at least, that is a very clear violation of fundamental rights. The internet part and the unreal sort of 144 orders which has been put in there for continuously and repeatedly, and now the Supreme Court has said that it needs to be reviewed, and the freedom of expression also contains the freedom to express through internet. So which sort of validates the stand, but unfortunately I don't think it gives any remedy to the people there.
Okay.
So for us, maybe theoretically we can say yes, some constitutional question has been answered. But I think it is also a very day-to-day livelihood question for people who are there, and they were really looking forward to get an answer today. To them, the judgment would be disappointing, and if the Supreme Court wanted to say that it had to be reviewed by under the rules, it could have said so maybe 2 months back, and then asked the petitioners to come to the Supreme Court after that review is done. Now they will ask the review to do it in 7 days, and then again come back, and it's actually people's day-to-day lives, and there should have been a bit more urgency. I'm sorry, but there should have been a bit more urgency in dealing with such matters.
Okay.
And specific remedy should have also been part of the judgment. While the fundamental rights part is a welcome judgment, not having any specific remedy is a disappointment for me.
And normal, of course, is a very loaded word in India today. Do you see this as a positive step to getting normalcy back, however you define it, in Kashmir sooner rather than later?
See, what is normal for us in Kashmir might not be that normal for Kashmiris. What was normal before the abrogation also.
Okay.
So there are a lot of questions, fundamental questions that needs to be asked and answered. We have been sort of ignoring it for a long time, and while certain state repressions are happening in other parts of the country, we are also have to think that these repressions might have also been happening in Kashmir. And if you are hurt here, we should have been equally hurt when it is happening in Kashmir. But at that point of time, and continuously, Kashmir had almost become a taboo that we don't want to discuss.
Okay.
We want to just look the other side when whatever is happening. That is not the way to treat our own citizens. And if we say they are our own citizens, we are the ones who are claiming. And when we say, we should at least extend the constitutional rights.
Okay.
And equally, the way it applies to us, it should be applied to Kashmiris also. And it's been so long now. It's been so long. I hope, I don't know, I think the 370 step, certain questions have to be asked. What is it that we gained? The government has to ask this question. You removed something from 370. What is it that we gained? It's not like the terrorists were reading constitution and seeing that, okay, there is 370, oh, now we'll do terrorism. And now that 370 is not there in the constitution, oh, we will stop terrorism. What is it that? Or is it that the development would come because of 370? None of the logic that government gives is actually has make any sense at all. And they have been just chasing after something, saying that we have taken this decision. So those questions have to be asked to the government. Why are they harassing people just because they can take decisions?
You've been going around speaking about freedom of expression, about democracy, so a very basic, very vast question. Not just in Kashmir, elsewhere as well, how do you see the status of freedom of expression in India today with what's been going on in terms of protests, response to protests? How do you see freedom of expression in the country today?
See, I am a lot more hopeful now than when I had resigned, because I had resigned not because what the government did. I had resigned because of lack of reaction from the common citizens.
Okay.
And when
You're seeing that reaction now?
yeah, when an entire city was pretty much shut down, when an entire state was pretty much shut down, the leaders were jailed, elected leaders were jailed, and youth have been sent to different states, all for the pretext of national security or national interest. Of part of it is right, okay, but then it's our duty as citizens to stand up for Kashmiris. The national integration would have happened if all of us would have stood up and say we won't let this happen to our.
You didn't see that happen.
No. In fact, the media, a lot of us were showing that the Kashmiris are celebrating, and lot of the media actually even decided not to show because they didn't want to show the pro side, so they decided to keep quiet and not show the, and what is the reality. And a lot of us, the judiciary, be it say the civil society did try to do, but not to the extent of, at least the political opposition have been highly ambivalent. They didn't want to take a position because whether taking a position on Kashmir would, everything became vote, and they were not asking for what is right, what is wrong. And I was really upset with that. So individually, all I could do was to resign and at least say that what I felt is, something is happening is wrong. After that, I have been traveling across. It's been like 40 plus cities now and more than 14 states that I have traveled and met people and talked about. But when the NRC and Citizenship Amendment Act question came, the fundamental aspect of our secularism or the secular constitution, the idea itself got challenged. People realized that democracy is not just about running a Twitter campaign or hashtag and trending or Instagram or memes or TikTok videos. The youth, which otherwise would have just thinking that WhatsApp is where the information is, or or Twitter is where the democracy is, they actually reclaimed this democracy. They reclaimed this country, and they are, they said no, we know what it is, and we know our rights, we know what is constitution, and they came out on the streets. They asked those questions which others were not ready to ask the government. So the youth who's going to lead us tomorrow, they are now breathing the air of democracy. They are now breathing the air of freedom, and that is giving a lot of hope.
Which makes you more optimistic than you were when you were
yes, absolutely. That was a decision in despair. Right now, I'm a lot more optimistic, and because I'm meeting kids who are coming out and say we want to know what is democracy, we want to know what is, and once they taste this, it is difficult for them to let it go. Countries don't change from dictatorship, democracy to dictatorship because a dictator comes. Countries changes from democracy to dictatorship because the citizens stop asking questions. And as a citizenry, we have again started asking questions. And I think that's a beautiful thing that has happened, and that this had to happen. This had to happen.
What do you see as the biggest threat, really, to freedom of expression in the country at this stage?
I think the biggest threat, I would say, is self-censorship.
Self-censorship, okay. So not an external agency, but people fearing to actually speak.
Yes.
Is that
Yeah, because yesterday I was giving a talk in a IAS training, coaching class.
Yes.
All the aspirants have stopped expressing themselves on Facebook, on Twitter. Why? Because they think if they write whatever they feel on Twitter or Facebook now, once their exams clear, they would start doing the background checks, and then their Facebook these posts would come, and this would be then used against them. 10 lakh people write this exam, 1,000 people get selected. Okay, 9,99,000 people have stopped expressing because they think. What is it that people have started writing something on Facebook at some point and had already started feeling like Bhagat Singh? Writing something on Facebook against government is like nobody cares. But people, that is the amount of fear. And I'm saying there's a part of it is with ourselves, a part of it has to do with how the government is responding. There have been change in discourse, I would say, in three parts, especially with the dispensation. One is that earlier, we criticize the government, we may have to be afraid of the government. Now we have to be afraid of the supporters of the government, because that is a change that has happened. The supporters, in their enthusiasm to defend the government, has started attacking the people who are asking questions. So while it is their right and to defend the government, it should be by saying what is good of the government, not by attacking what is bad of the person who is, because he's a private citizen asking a question. He's not accountable to he's a person who's asking a question. If you start checking his history from LKG and start finding his faults and questioning him, of course he would find the easiest way.
Self-censorship does come in. I met students as well who were concerned about placements, what would happen to placement.
Yes.
You do mention, of course, that the Supreme Court has said, like, the access to internet is a freedom. But on the flip side, how serious is it, this internet trolling, not just the background checks, but trolling, abuse on the internet? How much of a role is that playing in keeping people quiet?
Yeah, no, I was coming on the three parts. The second part is actually the name calling that has happened. The name calling is, so I was telling this that whenever students started raising these questions, they were started calling Tukde Tukde gang. That happened with JNU. And then anybody, urban middle class, intellectuals started questioning, they were being started calling urban Naxals. Then Christians started questioning, then they became rice bag converts or Vatican stooge. Sikhs started questioning, they became Khalistanis. Muslims, Atangwadi Mullah, Jihadi. You started giving names. Hindus, like I was called an anti-national. So when anybody who started asking questions, they are being made to keep quiet or they are silenced by putting a name to them. And that is a part of the trolling. But that only works till an extent. Once I don't care what you call me, because I know what I'm fighting for my country. So it doesn't matter what your perception
So
or
online is not the biggest threat. Online
not at all. It is something we have to grow out of. It will only work as long as we let it affect us.
Self-censorship.
The censorship. Yes, the moment you grow out of it, doesn't matter. And you have to understand that certain things, the argument hierarchy, certain things you have to ignore. And you should ignore it and, move. And the third thing, that discourse that has happened is the cost of a professional opinion has been now made personal. So let's say I take a professional stand against the government. It is not just that is happening in bureaucracy, that is happening in, with Ashok Lavasa, the election commissioner, you can see. If there is a dissent which is happening, he dissented with a couple of other election commissioners on an issue. It's a professional stand. But who is harassed? His entire family. The cost of taking a professional stand, when it is made personal, then it becomes difficult.
Which will add to the self-censorship.
Yes, so these three aspects I'm seeing of very change in a basic democratic discourse that we are having. The being afraid of government supporters, not just government, being called a name on what your identity is, not just because you are asking a question. And the third, the cost being made personal rather than just professional. And these things we have to fight, because these are the things we are because of which we are not raising these questions. And our not raising these questions will only lead us from the democracy to the authoritarianism.
There was a verbal spat between students of the Jyoti Nivas College here in Bengaluru with people who had come to put up CAA posters. How did you respond to that?
No, I have seen that video. While it is the right, anybody can, but you can't force people to sign, especially the kids and the students. They are now understanding their rights. It is not the case like, the authoritarian, patriarchal stuff that they come, we say something you have to do. And the biggest thing to any of this patriarchal ideology is a young woman standing up for and raising the voice. And that is
so threatening.
So threatening. And that is, actually I was seeing it like that. Young girls are saying, no, we don't. And they don't know how to react. And they shout, they threaten, that is not an insecurity on a political front also. That is also a questioning the patriarchal authority. So that is also was display there. And both of it, I don't think it's an ideology that can sustain, because the ideology itself is not good. The ideology that it's in itself is not good. How much ever we try to sugarcoat it, the ideology will ultimately have to expose. And I'm thankful it came out, because now the Bengaluru can know that what is it that they have supported.
Finally, what is the status of your resignation from the IAS?
I am still, there is people called IAS aspirant. I am a resignation aspirant.
So it hasn't happened yet.
No, for me, I have already resigned from my part. But after 3 months of my resignation, they gave me a notice saying that there are some 5 things, the Prime Minister's award, not giving a tour report, not submitting file in time, or some 5 points which are earlier done. On top of that, they have also added that me talking on Kashmir has affected the government's relations with foreign countries, foreign governments. That the foreign relations of the, asking a question on something on our own state with our own media has now started affecting government. How weak is this government? How insecure is this government? And that is one of the charge against me. And they have given that memo, but they could not deliver it to me personally. So in fact, when I was detained in Agra, I was going for a panel discussion in Aligarh Muslim University, and they are saying panel discussion. They stopped me, detained me, arrested me at Agra border. Did not, for the whole day I was detained. Yes. And during detention, the government of India tried to deliver that memo to me. Somebody came from Delhi to Agra to deliver that memo. And I said that under detention, I'm not in a position to sign anything and accept anything. So I don't know what is it that it's a resignation. I've already put my resignation papers 4 months back. It's August 23rd, and it's been much beyond that. Just accept it and let me be. And let me be very clear, I'm not going to waste even 1 second fighting that battle. The government wants me to fight my personal battle. I'm not going to do that. So you are wasting your time. You are wasting my time also. But I don't think that's going to help.
Thank you so much. Well, IAS resignation aspirant here, Kannan Gopinathan, speaking about freedom of expression and the threats to it in the country today. With DM Kumar, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.